Welcome back, everyone. This week, we're going to be discussing Organigram, ticker symbol OGI. And the point of today's conversation is what would happen if they paid an excise tax of 10% rather than the current $1 per gram? The reason I bring this up is not because it's going to happen per se, but kind of a mental exercise, and why not? Best case scenario. And the US side is just obsessed at the cost of doing any real research for the most part with 280E. The funny thing is for as much as people talk about 280E taxes, most of them can't even tell you what fill in the blank company would be making if they didn't pay the 280E. And then the funny thing is a lot of the companies aren't paying the 280E, which is to say that if 280E taxes went away, for all intents and purposes, it wouldn't make a difference in regards to the current accounting, except that it would be legal instead of illegal. So, isn't that interesting? Nonetheless, here we go. What if? On a recent TDR podcast, link in the article, the CEO of Organigram, Bina Goldenberg, said that Organigram would save 35%, would have 35% EBITDA margins if the excise tax was strictly 10% versus the current $1 per gram rate, which is an effective tax rate of 35%. So, what would that imply? Unfortunately, we can't take people at their word. I've highlighted this point before about the pathology of speech corrupting the cannabis space here and here, links in the article. More specifically, I'm talking about this chronic propensity to use EBITDA and adjusted EBITDA as though they're interchangeable and synonymous. Here's Organigram's 191-word explanation for a two-word phrase, adjusted EBITDA. Don't worry, I'm not going to read you all 190 words, so we'll just skip past that. And this is what their 191 words looks like for their adjusted EBITDA, which we don't have to point through. My point is twofold. Adjusted EBITDA is stupid, and my suspicion is that she meant 35% adjusted EBITDA margin, not EBITDA margin. As such, I'll be using the adjusted EBITDA figure to do the following calculations, because why not? The kid, grifter, and all of us likes to play kayfabe and pretensies. This is what Organigram has to say about adjusted EBITDA. Adjusted EBITDA is intended to provide a proxy for the company's operating cash flow and derives expectations of future financial performance for the company, and excludes adjustments that are not reflective of current operating results. The most directly comparable measure to adjusted EBITDA, calculated in accordance with IFRS, is net income. Oh, okay, wink wink. So to sum that up, adjusted EBITDA is intended to provide a proxy for the company's operating cash flow, that'd be called cash flow from operations, CFO, and it's what? The most directly comparable measure to adjusted EBITDA is net income. So the thing that's a proxy for operating cash flows, closest direct comparable is net income. Do you not understand how just stupid that is? How inconsistent and contradictive that is? Let's see how this adjusted EBITDA figure acts as a proxy and compares to its closest comparable, i.e. why it's stupid. So, fiscal 2024 adjusted EBITDA was 8,416. These are in millions. I'm just going to read it like this. Doesn't matter. Well, it just makes it easier. So the fiscal 2024 adjusted EBITDA is 8,416. Their net income loss for that year was negative 45,000. And their operating cash flow was 3,872. So you could say that the adjusted EBITDA figure overstates the net income by sixfold, and then it overstates the operating cash flow by almost twofold. So that's interesting. And that's what it's a proxy in its closest comparables. Simply put, it is a trash job at reflecting operating cash flows or net income. And that one extra word, adjusted, makes an awfully big difference to the EBITDA figure. It overstates EBITDA by 5x. In nominal terms, the difference between the adjusted EBITDA and EBITDA figure is equivalent to 1/5 of Organigram's enterprise value. But I digress on to what this article is about, which is what would happen if they only had to pay 10% in excise tax. So, back to this 35% adjusted EBITDA margin of net revenue she spoke of. For fiscal 2024, as the below image shows, they had a net income loss of negative $45,440. Adjusted EBITDA of $8,416 and net revenue of $159,841. This gave them a 5% adjusted EBITDA margin. Now, what would have happened to their net income, all else being equal, if they had an adjusted EBITDA margin of 35% due to only having to pay an excise tax of 10%? The excise tax would be $24,717 instead of $87,336. This would bring their net revenues up to $224,459. That's a difference of $62,619. Which means, all else being equal, that they would have gone from this is the exciting point where your eyes can stop glazing over from me seeing a bunch of numbers. What this means is that their net income would have gone from a loss to a gain. A loss of $45 million to a gain of $17 million. Their adjusted EBITDA will go from $8 million to $71 million. And that would put their adjusted EBITDA margin at 32%. So I guess she rounded up 3 points, but hey, it's directionally accurate. And maybe my math's wrong, but it's probably also directionally accurate. Unless I really missed a comma somewhere, or a percentage, or I did a divide instead of a multiply. That's why you're supposed to do your own due diligence. In other words, when it's all said and done, it would be a big freaking deal. I'm not saying that this is likely to happen, but what I am saying is that investors paying attention to this is unlikely to happen. I've lost count of the number of times I've heard or seen someone talk about the difference that the removal of 280E would have on a company such as the image below. And yet, I have never seen a single time a similar chart depicting what the impact to the Canadian companies would be if the excise tax was reformed, i.e. being changed to 10% rather than $1 a gram. Today's article was an attempt at doing that, but just in regards to our Organigram. But the fact that what I just noted remains true is really worth thinking about. I've been exploring this dynamic in varying ways. Here are a couple of posts I've made in regards to this topic. And if you watch my weekly performance report or you follow me on Twitter, you've seen and heard these. So if not, I'll say them right quick. Follow me on Twitter if you want to, or troll me or whatever. Relatively speaking, and upon a cursory glance, I don't understand the preoccupation of investors with Tier 1 MSOs such as Cureleaf and Trueleaf, while overlooking the Tier 1 LPs such as Kronos and OGI. Kronos is a net growing revenue 30% year over year with a stronger inflecting margin profile. Doesn't have all the back tax drama, not burning cash, and is gaining market share. And then I also said, what did I say here? This is a good one. To think that a basket of Tier 1 Canadian cannabis stocks beat out a basket of Tier 1 US stocks year to date, that's seriously worth thinking about. Not just how it happened, but how you missed it in all probability. Like I said, it's really worth thinking about. Thank you for watching, and until next time.